I plucked up the courage to hold his hand and comforted him softly. Orion, don't blame yourself. I'm fine, aren't I? Orion brushed away my hand, stood up, and turned away from me. Amelia, you must leave, go abroad. What? Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Both times, it's because of me that you've been in danger. I'm afraid I won't be able to protect you in the future. You should leave. I stared at his back, my eyes involuntarily moistening. You still love me, don't you? His figure flickered and silently lifted his foot to leave. I disregarded the dizziness, got out of bed barefoot, and hugged his waist from behind, relentlessly asking, do you still love me, Orion? His back stiffened for a moment, his fists loosened and clenched again, as if he was restraining himself. After a long silence, I thought I wouldn't get his answer, but then I heard a faint voice, like a mosquito. Yes, I love you. I hadn't even had time to be happy when I heard his low voice again. But I can't forgive you. I instantly felt deflated, as if all the strength had been drained from my body. I was delusional. How could he forgive me? It was his mother's life. I had actually tried to find evidence of his love for me in his little acts of kindness, and even hoped that our relationship would improve over time. Time may heal wounds, but it cannot bring back a life. I closed my eyes and laughed at myself mockingly, then despairingly let go of his arm and turned slowly. But Orion suddenly turned back and held me tightly from behind. Feeling the warmth of his body against my back, I froze in place. I am getting married. These 4 words drifted lightly into my ears, and in an instant, my heart felt like it was plunged into an ice cave, feeling endless coldness. I had imagined that one day our relationship would improve, and I had also imagined that he would forever hate me, forever be at odds with me. But no matter what, our lives were intertwined. I had never imagined that he would get married, that he would have nothing to do with me ever again. Even though he held me close, I felt as if there were billions of light years between us. He rested his chin on the back of my neck and murmured the words again. Amelia, I am getting married, as if he was saying it to me, and yet, it seemed like he was saying it to himself. His marriage partner is the beautiful and gentle girl I met at the couple's restaurant last time. Dorothy Weston, the heiress of the wealthy family, is a perfect match for Orion. Although it's a business merger, I can feel that Dorothy loves Orion, because her eyes towards Orion are just like mine used to be. Orion brought her to the Hathor family's old mansion for dinner. Dorothy behaved gracefully, pleasing Grandpa and thoughtfully preparing gifts for everyone. Clutching the expensive diamond necklace, I struggled to say, thank you, Dorothy. I lost my manners at the dinner table, just focusing on eating, because I was afraid that if I looked at them for a moment longer, tears would start flowing. Grandpa was very happy, constantly praising Orion for growing up and urging them to live well. My mom tightly held my hand, asking me to toast to Orion and Dorothy. I knew that she wanted to completely cut off my feelings. I forgot what I said, probably just some insincere words, only remembering that it was the most difficult drink I ever had in my life. Orion silently drank the toast I offered, and then he took Dorothy's glass and drank it all. Luke was punished by Grandpa, and his back was probably still swollen, so he could only sit up straight. His gaze kept wandering between me and Orion, with a look of enjoying the show on his face. During this meal, everyone present had their own concerns, and in the end, both Grandpa and Orion were completely drunk. Grandpa was genuinely happy, and Orion, perhaps too. After lunch, Dorothy invited me to go shopping with her alone. As the new sister-in-law, I couldn't refuse her. I accompanied her absent-mindedly, and finally she took me to her coffee shop to sit down. She personally brewed a cup of latte for me, sat across from me, and looked at me with gentle eyes. I felt inexplicably guilty under her gaze, but I could only force myself to chat with her. Unexpectedly, she came straight to the point. Amelia, I know about your relationship with him. I stirred the coffee in my hand, the spoon scraping the bottom of the cup with a creak. Orion has a hidden album in his phone, full of your photos, and he often looks at them secretly. On weekends, he would go to the restaurant near your university alone, order a table full of dishes, and force himself to finish them. When he's drunk, he would mistake people and hug me, calling out for Amelia. I had never known any of this, and each sentence made my heart tremble. The wine from lunch was churning in my stomach, bringing up waves of bitterness. I admired Dorothy a lot. She could talk about her fiancé's love for another girl so calmly, as if it had nothing to do with her. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that I understand your past, and I fully accept it, because I love him. I have loved Orion for much longer than you have. Dorothy covered my hand with hers, her eyes determined. We are getting married, so I hope that from now on, you and him will just be siblings. Neither of us wants to see a tragedy like what happened to Orion's mother happen again, right? Dorothy was a true lady, seemingly gentle on the outside, but strong and resolute on the inside. She hit my sore spot accurately. Yes, I would never let such a tragedy happen again. So, as long as Orion is married, there will be no possibility for him and me. I held her hand back, sincerely assuring her, Orion and I will always be just siblings, nothing more. Coming out of the cafe, I walked on the street like a lost soul, not knowing where I was heading. Just as I almost got hit by a car, a pair of hands suddenly pulled me back to the roadside. Amelia, is that you? I looked for a while before recognizing the girl without makeup in front of me, who Orion had brought home before. Gemma? The girl smiled and nodded at me. As I glanced over, I noticed her slightly bulging belly, and my heart skipped a beat. Gemma, are you pregnant? Gemma unconsciously touched her belly and nodded shyly. Is this child, is it Orion's? Oh, no. Gemma waved her hands anxiously. The child is from my ex-boyfriend. It has nothing to do with Orion. I breathed a sigh of relief. Actually, I have no relationship with Orion either. What? She explained hesitantly. I was selling wine in a bar, and that day Orion got drunk. He said as long as I helped him with a favor, he would buy all my wine. He took me home, just asked me to sleep in his bed for one night, while he sat on the sofa the whole night. Why did he do that? I don't know. Gemma shook her head. I asked him, and he said he didn't want her to know that he still couldn't let go. I don't know who this her is, or what it means. Amelia, do you understand? I understood. He clearly couldn't let go. He loved me as much as I loved him, but he could only force himself to let go. Our love was mixed with too many entanglements from the previous generation, and there was no way to untangle it. Orion and I, marrying others and starting anew, is the best ending. I accept this fate, but Luke doesn't accept it. He came to me again. Orion is going to marry Dorothy, so he has even less chance of inheriting the company. This time he wants me to seduce Orion. I just told him that everything happens for a reason, and we shouldn't force things when it's not our time. Seeing me looking disillusioned with the world, he left angrily. Amelia, if you like something, you should do whatever it takes to get it. Watching his resentful figure leave, I bitterly finished the tequila in my glass. Some people, no matter how much you give, you can never reach them again. The night before the wedding, Orion stood on the balcony all night, and I also stayed awake all night. From tomorrow on, he will be someone else's husband. The past is all in the past. From now on he only belongs to Dorothy Weston. In the early morning, I heard him pacing back and forth outside my room, but in the end, he didn't knock on the door. Later, the people who helped with the wedding procession arrived and left in a lively manner. When the noise outside dispersed, I finally left the room. I didn't go to greet them as the groom's family because I was afraid I would lose control. I would just stood in the corner and watched them complete the wedding. I had just got into a taxi when I received a call from Dorothy, urgently telling me that the necklace she had ordered was left in the coffee shop storage room and asking me to help retrieve it. I knew she cared a lot about the wedding, and she personally supervised every detail, big or small. This necklace, designed and customized by a famous designer, was specially made to match her high-end wedding dress. When I arrived at the coffee shop, it was strange that there were no customers, only a staff member washing cups. I explained my purpose and went straight to the storage room, but I couldn't find it no matter how hard I looked. I had to call Dorothy for help. The moment the call connected, my phone was snatched away. It was the same staff member from earlier. The next moment, she locked the storage room door from the outside. I was shocked and scared, desperately banging on the door, asking her to let me out. Dorothy's calm voice came through as the staff put the call on speakerphone. I'm sorry, Amelia. Today is too important for me. I must ensure that nothing goes wrong. I will only feel at ease if you don't show up at the wedding. Trust me, I will let you go once the wedding is over. So that's the reason. She went to such lengths to keep me trapped here because she was afraid Orion would change his mind at the last moment. Dorothy, I promise I won't go to the wedding. Please let me out. I don't want to stay here. Ever since my mother locked me in a room for 2 full days and nights that year, I developed a fear of confinement, which only improved as I grew older. But this storage room was just too cramped. I begged her to let me go, but she remained unmoved. Amelia, I'm sorry. The call was abruptly ended, and the staff's footsteps gradually faded away outside the door. I knelt on the ground, breathing heavily, clutching the lucky charm hanging around my neck, repeatedly chanting Orion's name to dispel my fear. The staff forgot to turn off the production equipment when leaving, and I realized there was thick smoke billowing outside when the fire broke out. Smoke seeped in through the door crack, and I frantically pounded on the door, shouting to be let out. No matter how I called out, kicked, and banged on the door, there was no response, and the door lock didn't budge an inch. No answer from the heavens or the earth. Overwhelming despair engulfed me. The thick smoke choked my throat, and I could only lie on the ground to gasp for the scarce oxygen. Lying on the ground, the smoke made my nose run, and I didn't know how much time had passed. Every second was excruciating. Finally, I heard the siren of the fire engine. Outside the door, Orion's heart-wrenching cries reached me. I tried hard to respond to him, but the smoke blocked my throat, and I couldn't make any sound. Amelia, hold on. I'm coming to save you. Can you hear me? Amelia, I forgive you. Please, please hold on. Amelia, I know I was wrong. Please stay alive. Amelia, I love you. You are my destiny. You can't leave me. Amelia, you can't die. I won't allow it. Amelia, I struggled hard, trying to crawl to the door, but in the end, I could only move my fingers slightly. I gradually felt the lack of oxygen, and my consciousness slowly drifted away. The sense of hearing is the last to go before death. I listened to the crackling sound of wood burning, the sharp and piercing sound of sirens, and the voice of my beloved Orion slowly fading away. It felt like I had fallen into a silent and tranquil world, surrounded by overwhelming whiteness and an incredible lightness throughout my body. I believe in the cycle of karma. I have repaid my debt for Orion's mother's life. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. My unexpected life has finally come to an end. The cafe turned turned into ruins, and my mother fainted on the spot. At that moment, she was truly grieving for losing me. Orion knelt there, continuously digging through the rubble, blood mixing with the ashes and mud. It seemed like he had lost all sense of awareness, only knowing to keep digging and digging. Dorothy knelt behind him in a pristine white wedding dress, crying and holding on to him. Amidst the devastation, the pure white stood out remarkably. In the evening, a heavy rain fell over the entire city. The pouring rain seemed like a lament from the heavens. Orion knelt in the rain all night, motionless, tearless, just staring blankly ahead. After a serious illness, Dorothy took meticulous care of Orion for many days. Once recovered, Orion was left as an empty shell, devoid of vitality. He seemed to have lost his mind, not speaking a word. He only spent his days in my room, staring at the ceiling while holding my blanket. He printed my photos into posters, covering every corner of the room. Dorothy stuck to him every day, even though he ignored her. Finally, when Orion muttered to my photo, she erupted. Orion, can't you come to your senses? Amelia is dead. She's already dead. At the mention of death, Orion's eyes briefly regained clarity. He glared at Dorothy, his eyes filled with rage, and spoke with emphasis. Dorothy, you better get far away. I'm afraid I can't help but kill you. His eyes were bloodshot, exuding a chilling aura of death, looking particularly terrifying. Shaken, Dorothy ran away without looking back. The continuous days of drizzle finally cleared up, and the air after the rain was exceptionally fresh. Orion pushed open the window, feeling the fresh air coming towards him. He put on a clean white shirt and shaved off the stubble that had grown for days. On his left ring finger, he wore a platinum ring, the couple ring he hadn't given out on the day our relationship was confirmed. Amelia, the weather is really nice today, just like the day we first met. You used to say you liked young men in white clothes, but I always liked wearing black, and I never got the chance to show you. Do I look good in this white shirt? Do I still look the same as before? I know I must be getting old, but you are still as beautiful as ever. Please don't be disappointed when you see me. But even if you are, it doesn't matter. I've made up my mind about you. Orion tidied himself in front of the mirror, walked to the bedside, lifted my blanket, and lay down slowly, closing his eyes. The sunlight fell on his face, making his cheeks so white that they reflected light, and his smile was particularly peaceful. Outside the window, a few birds chirped incessantly, then gradually fell silent. Through a hazy mist, he saw Orion and Amelia embracing in the firelight.